Hi, welcome everyone. We will get started in a few minutes, but while we're waiting, um, if you're welcome to introduce yourselves in the chat space, provide your name and your institutional affiliation. Let us know who you are. I think we're closing in on critical mass here. I'll give it another minute. Okay, maybe less than another minute. Good morning, everyone. My name's Kim DeRitter. I lead the Asia Foundation's Regional Environment and Climate Action Program based in Bangkok. I'm happy to welcome you to this webinar entitled Building Climate Resilience in Asia. For those of you new to our organization, the Asia Foundation is an international NGO headquartered in San Francisco with a liaison office in Washington, DC, and a network of 18 country offices in South Asia, Southeast Asia, Northeast Asia, and a regional office in Fiji for the Pacific Islands. For 68 years, we've worked with government, civil society, academia, and the private sector. We work with these entities as partners, helping them to strategize progressive reforms and innovative program approaches, providing grants, technical assistance, and other support as needed to help them realize their efforts as change agents. We focus on 7 separate but often interconnected areas of work, including good governance, environment and climate action, conflict and fragility, women's empowerment and gender equality, inclusive economic growth, regional and international relations, and technology. Our work in environment and climate action exemplifies the Asia Foundation's commitment to working with Asia's governments, NGOs, and communities to promote green and circular economies, the transition to renewable energy, sustainably managed natural resources, and working to reduce disaster risks while building climate resilience. And indeed, the need to build climate resilience has never been more urgent. 3 years ago, the United Nations estimated that by the year 2030, we will reach the planet's tipping point, that point at which we will begin an irreversible cascade of increasingly severe climate impacts. Already, there is evidence that we will in fact hit that tipping point earlier than expected. Climate-related disasters are increasing with both frequency and severity worldwide, with Asia bearing the brunt of this impact. Last year alone, we witnessed the death and destruction caused by Typhoon Rai in the Philippines, the floods and landslides in China's Henan province, Cyclone Seroja in Indonesia and Timor-Leste, flash floods in Nepal, a heat wave in India so hot it reached 120 degrees Fahrenheit, followed just 6 weeks later by Cyclone Tauktae. And the list goes on. Sadly, these tragedies are fast becoming Asia's new normal. They're happening so frequently that we risk becoming numb to them. And yet climate scenarios for this region continue to worsen with each passing year. Climate resilience in the human context is our capacity to anticipate climate impacts and reorganize ourselves, rethinking and reshaping our social and economic systems so as to increase our capacity to cope with the coming changes. We do this in an effort to maintain the essential functions of our societies. Climate resilience efforts encompass social and economic, technological, and political strategies of all scales, from local community action all the way up to global treaties. And at the heart of each and every effort is good governance. Leaders, practitioners, and stakeholders alike must all understand the impending risks and threats of climate change. They must understand clearly what their options are in order to effectively respond to these risks. This diverse set of actors must then cooperate and collaborate to forge a shared vision for the changes that need to be made, while finding the collective political will to implement that vision responsibly and equitably. These are huge changes away from business as usual and into uncharted territory. Without effective good governance, good decisions about building climate resilience won't happen, thus leaving the region at risk to climate perils that will inevitably come. Today, we have the opportunity to hear from three climate action practitioners, each of whom will share their stories of building climate resilience in their respective countries and communities. And in each case, we will hear how good governance plays a critical role in their efforts. And so without further delay, I would like to introduce you to today's speakers. Our first speaker, Mr. Pradeep Khattawadi, is the founder and executive director of the Youth Innovation Lab, a nonprofit organization that works with government and communities alike to incorporate science and science-based data systems into public policy and its implementation using innovative platforms. Prior to this, Pradeep served as the national coordinator for Nepal's National Volunteering Program, a national service platform established jointly by the National Planning Commission and the Himalayan Climate Initiative. Pradeep is also something of a television celebrity. For 2 years, he hosted a TV talk show that served as a platform for young people to share innovative work and ideas while bringing together speakers from all sectors of Nepal society. Today, Pradeep will speak to us about integrated information management systems, which allow Nepal's government and stakeholders to identify and manage climate risks, as well as disaster risks. Our second speaker today is Ms. Fira Tiasning Triutari. Fira serves as the Director of Programs and Partnerships for the Sekolah Mombini Foundation in Central Sulawesi, Indonesia. Fira is a women's rights advocate with 2 decades of experience working with grassroots communities and women's groups. Her activities cover a broad sweep of issues, while empowering women and youth through leadership, economic opportunity, and good governance. Over the past 3 years, Fira has managed the Central Sulawesi component of the SETAPAC project, a forest governance initiative implemented through the Asia Foundation and funded by the British government. Today, Fira will share with us her experiences in protecting Indonesia's forests to mitigate not only climate change, but also the impacts of climate-related disasters, while mainstreaming gender dimensions into social forestry programs. Our third and final speaker this morning is Ms. Sopavan Rasapong. So serves as Senior Environment Program Officer for the Asia Foundation's country program in the Laos People's Democratic Republic. In her current capacity, So works with both national and local government agencies and partners to advance a broad set of environmental and climate action programs, covering such priorities as disaster risk reduction, community water resources management and river basin management, climate resilient infrastructure, and several other climate action initiatives. So is also recognized for her work in pesticides in Laos and its implications for health and sustainable crop production. Today, So will share with us her experiences in advancing water resources management to strengthen long-term community resilience. Let's now turn to our presentations. Each speaker will have 8 to 10 minutes, after which we will open it up for questions. For the Q&A session, we will be taking your questions via the channel located at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Our Zoom platform includes accessibility features on which we will post details in the chat space to ensure that we have full and inclusive access by all participants. And with that, please let me turn the floor over to Pradeep to begin his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Keem. Namaste and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. My name is Pradeep Khattawadi, and I'm the Executive Director at Youth Innovation Lab. Youth Innovation Lab is a civic tech company with its mission to bring science to people and policy through innovation. Today, I'm presenting on Bipat Portal. It's a government-led disaster information management system in Nepal. And I'm also privileged to mention that this particular project was started with the support of Asia Foundation, and I'm getting this opportunity to be part of this. So Bipat Portal is an integrated disaster information management system. But before I go to this portal itself, let me give you a brief introduction of Nepal itself. Nepal is a land of country in South Asia, located in the Himalayas between India and China. The terrain is generally mountainous and contains many of the world's largest peaks, including Mount Everest, which is 8,848 plus meters. And we also have a very low areas in the south, which elevations is less than 100 meters. Due to its unique geography, Nepal is also a country, what they say, the supermarket of disasters. So if we see the stats of a year from 15 June last year, 2021 to today, so we had more than 3,943 incidents of 17 different types. So that took alone the life of 543 people, among which hydrology, meteorological disasters like landslide, which has taken lives of 203 people, flood has taken lives of 63, lightning has taken life of 60, heavy rain has taken life of 19, and it goes on. So the impact of disaster and climate change is already having sufficient impacts on the environment in Nepal. The species ranging are shifting to higher altitudes, glaciers are melting, and the frequency and precipitation extreme is increasing. Therefore, the data-driven approach of risk reduction, both disaster as well as climate change, is key. Let me start my presentations by defining the different aspects of Bipat Portal, the initiative to unlock data-driven decision in Nepal. So Bipat Portal is a homegrown initiative, so initiated by the government of Nepal with the technical support of Youth Innovation Lab. It's a tool for disaster data partnership and sharing within and between the governments. Likewise, it is also an integrated disaster information management system that hosts all kind of disaster-related information in a single portal. Similarly, it's a low-cost open source technology that we have undertaken, and it allows users to use system without any constraint. You don't have to log in to access BPAT portal. And it's also, sorry, youth-driven technology developed by the multidisciplinary team of Nepali youths below the age of 30. It's also a tool for disaster risk reduction and management, risk communication, as well as climate change. This system is also a platform for data partnership and data sharing. When I'm saying data partnership and data sharing, we have a range of different governments. We have 3 administrative levels, federal government, provincial government, and local levels. So BPAT portal is a national system, but within the national system, there is a platform for federal, provincial, and local governments to contribute and manage data sets of their own administrative level. So for which there is a subdomain created for each provinces, means we have 7 provinces, 77 districts, and 753 local municipal authorities. So all of it, the subdomain, each party also gets separate and unique ID password, which they can into the data on the portal, and they can actually own these data sets on their own. And not just within and between the government, the system also allows non-governmental organizations, research and academic institutions to contribute and showcase their data sets in the centralized platform, and also use it as per their need. So the BPAT portal is an integrated disaster portal. It has 6 modules. They are dashboard, which gives alerts, incident, damage and loss, real-time module, profile module, and risk information module. So each module has its own specific characteristic and host data accordingly. The platform has 6 modules in the portal that has potential to enhance preparedness and early warning, strengthen disaster communication, emergency response strengthening, and enhance coordination post-incident, and evidence-based planning, decision-making, and policy-making. For instance, this dashboard provides spatial and temporal information of alerts and potential hazard. Similarly, incident modules provide information on incident happening in different parts of the country. Damage and loss gives damage and loss information of the disaster. Similarly, real-time information gives real-time information of earthquake, forest fire, water level, rain, air pollution, etc. And the profile module is quite unique as it's hosts disaster-related all projects classification and also the visualization. So you can see which donor is working on which provinces or palikas. And also it has other informations like disaster-related documentations, government contact information, and also other important documents. Risk information module consists of hazard related maps or risk maps. It also has vulnerability and exposure related data sets, and also the climate change data sets along with capacity and resources in a single platform, which is why it is also called as a one-stop platform. Let me showcase some of the innovative approaches we have taken in development of impact-based forecasting and visualization of risks, which we call VisRigs. So to talk about BPAT portal for impact-based forecasting, we have developed this prototype of impact-based forecasting dashboard for floods in Nepal. This dashboard combines flood forecast data with the vulnerability and exposure information to help decision makers analyze risks and undertake early actions effectively. So once this system is ready, which is under observation right now, because we are using GLOFAST data, and also we are waiting for local government's data itself to be integrated, and also other real-time informations. So once this is ready and also tested in this monsoon, BPAT can potentially serve as a trigger for anticipatory action, especially for flood. So this system is also first of its kinds that convert risk data at different spatial scales and visualizes the quantifiable potential impacts of forecasted flood events. Like shown in the figure, the system quantifies the risk score at household level, combining the score with the forecasted flood events, and allows you to visualize quantifiable expose and impacts elements as well. So, you can see the dots on the screen. So those dots and the different color indicates the risk score of household level, and also this layer which is overlaid, and also that signifies the flood depth in meters. So we know that this communication of risks is not an easy task. That's why this visualization of risks, risk is developed as a risk visualization. So basically, the data and information, especially risk information, is very complex in nature and hard to understand and communicate risk information, especially to the local level governments and stakeholders. So this system is developed in such a way that they can use it for immediate or informed decision making and unlock different potentials to identify the most vulnerable communities in their location. Therefore, we have come up with this innovative ideas of developing a new VSRIX module, which has interactive platform to communicate risk information using a visual aids such as maps, graphics, and infographics as well. So as shown in the map, a platform can access this risk and household level, considering alongside the exposure and vulnerabilities are the and then communicated in the visualizations to help the user, especially at the local municipal authorities. This risk visualization tool, as soon as the animations that you can see on the slides, it has VisRigs looks like the Bipat portal. So this rigs developed up for Barabise focus especially on the landslide. As you can see, like in 2014, right now, so you couldn't see much of landslide events in that municipality, but slowly right after 2015 Nepal earthquake, we can see the gradual, like very significant increase of landslide increase. So it means, like we need this local government can utilize these kind of data sets for meaningful intervention in the in their palikas. So along with these data sets, multiple sources are embedded in this platform, development of comprehensive risk picture of the municipality. A similar kind of other system has been developed for 10 of the municipalities in Nepal, focusing on flood like this landslide and also the flood hazard scenario as well. So along with this, we equipped youth and young professionals with the technical knowledge, and we place them at the municipality so that they can like transfer this capacity to the local governments. We have branded this initiative as a disaster risk reduction fellowship and climate fellowship. So I'll stop here and I'll take your questions afterwards. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for this great opportunity that was given to me. My name is Vira. I'm working in Sikola Mubino Foundation as one of civil society organization partner working with the Asia Foundation Indonesia. And I'm honored to be part of this webinar to share my perspective and experience working to promote environmental governance in sustainable forest and land management programs, or we call it SETAPAK program. Okay, so next to the slide. All right, so welcome to Indonesia with over 270 million population, and we are living surrounded by 63% forest area. However, Indonesia suffered forest loss in amount of 2 million hectares in the past 3 years. So this is ironic that Indonesia is rich in the natural resource. People are dependent on the forest, yet we keep losing the true deforestation rate. So what's happening with the forest in Indonesia? Why have we lost so many hectares over the years? We can move to the next slide. So based on our experience working with the SETAPAK programs, there are several main problems. First is a lack of knowledge about what and where forests are. We don't have a thematic forest map that is easy to access and justify the forest management, and also overlapping and conflicting laws. Often forest dispute occur when the exciting poor community would like to legalize their forest area, which have been managed since their grandparents, and the forest area have already been given to the extractive industry. So in facing this conflict, often government will be stepping aside company interest rather than community interest in the name of the law or regulation. And also we have a problem about the law and regulation in managing forest area vertically issued by national government, for instance, in establishing the national park, The ministry was not implement free prior informed consent to the community living nearby the national park. And the other problems is with district government or governance. We don't really have like authority had been pulled out into national governments. Hence, the subnational government has no responsibility to manage sustainable forest and land management in their district and forest. And also, civil society demand for this still emerging. Also, this is become the problem that civil society organization movement agenda have been considered strong yet scattered. For instance, informally based civil society organization will not implement gender mainstreaming value. So this is kind of the problem. We move to the next slide. As a part of the civil society organization movement to create change, and there are several agenda of reform, including first, gender mainstreaming. We are working to improve the capacity of civil society organization as well as government to promote women's participation in sustainable land and forest management through facilitating women leaders in policy dialogues with relevant stakeholders. And also, this of social forestry as the agenda. We support women leaders and community involved in participatory mapping to social forestry agenda. And ecological fiscal transfer as that this is a strategy that should strengthen financial support to local government based on their performance in protecting forest and community empowerment, including women empowerment. And also law enforcement. CSO has been exercising several strategies to improve law enforcement by promoting collaboration with the law enforcement agency like Corruption Eradication Commission, Ombudsman, Police Department, and etc. And also we're doing economic empowerment to facilitate economic opportunity for the community in the grassroots level. Next, so how we approach and the strategy that approachment that we use as a civil society organization in the Setapak program. First is focus on good governance at the local and national level. As one of signatory of the Setapak program, we have been working closely with the governments actors and we advocating just and equal regulation and facilitating multi-stakeholder or interest to achieve good governance in land and forest sectors. And also the important things, we applying political economics analysis. So this is one of the methods that are common to use. Each step of advocation needs to implement the theory of change and mapping the actors and determine the opportunity from the political dimension. As well as we are using the perspective of gender and marginalized group. This one have been considered as our ultimate approach and strategy. We have been working to mainstreaming gender in any aspect of program. We develop a gender analysis tools, also guidebook on social forestry, module and gender analysis pathway and other social media and tools to make sure that this program on the right line of inclusivity. Okay, so we move to the next slide. As you can see, this is the best practice that we're working in the past 5 years under Setapak program. As I mentioned before, we are promoting justice and equality. We have been developing a pool of gender focal points as individually to representative from the civil society organization who are responsible to mainstreaming equality value internally and externally. And currently we have 50 gender focal point. And for the best practice, since 2018, there are 108 social forestry permits have been obtained. And this is civil society facilitation rate in 9 provinces. And also, as you can see in the screen, we also working for ecological fiscal transfer and law enforcement. All right. And also, for the law enforcement, we are joining a monitoring scheme with a respective government, a commission of the corruption eradication, ombudsman, and other ministry and regional tax office, and we have been prevented 4.4 million hectares of forest and land from deforestation and degradation. And for the example, one of the local CSO in Rio province has secured 60,000 hectares by collaborating with Ministry of Environment and Forest in ecosystem revitalization of Pesonilo National Park. Okay, so next slide, you can see the next slide is the ecological fiscal transfer scheme adoption progress. This is the map of Indonesia, and you can see that there are 60 regions and provinces that have enacted the scheme, and also 55 local governments in 40 provinces and 41 districts have been assisted by civil society organization in development ecological fiscal transfer scheme. So this is a lot of things to do right now, but we're still in the progress. All right, so next. Okay, so I think this is the my last slide, that in the process of implementing the Setapak program, we also face several challenges and opportunity at the same time. As you can see in the slide, that there are many of them, but I want to highlight several that have been considered crucial. First things, that for the opportunity, we have International Climate Fund as opportunity to widen Environment Protection Fund, and also we have the political will to adopt green policy and the new regulation in social forestry that will expand marginalized group, including women group, to access the scheme and get benefit. And also another opportunity, we also acknowledge that there are youth movement and campaigns about climate change, job for nature, green products, adaptation to climate change, and also this is a very perspective of the local wisdom with sustainability that will provide impact to indigenous group. And also for the challenge, we still have a struggle with the shrinking civic space. Yet, civil society organization intervention is inevitably important to develop democracy within the country. As you know, that we will facing 2024 general election that will be connected with political transactional that will harm forest and land area. And and also last but not least, that we keep working to mainstream gender responsive approach in managing natural resource and forest in disaster management. So I get that we also have opportunity and also challenge at the same time, so we can keep work together. Okay, I think that's for me. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here, and I'm looking for the next discussion with exciting topic with you. Thank you.
Hello.
Hi, so feel free to start anytime.
Yes. Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Hello, everyone. It is my honor to have a chance to share the Asia Foundation Laos work on how our partner and we have been building climate resilience in Laos through our environment program. We have done several projects, but the main project that we are currently working on is community river basin management. Let me tell you about the situation of Laos in general first. Economically, Laos is a developing country, but it is abundant in natural resources, particularly water. River provides ecosystem services to people and habitat for aquatic and terrestrial wildlife. Even though Laos economic grows fast, it heavily relies on country's natural resources, especially water, mineral, and forests. As a result, the environment, especially water resources, are under increasing pressure. Water scarcity is exacerbated by pollution as water quality and usability downstream decrease. Top-down sector approach is traditional water management applying in Laos. This has led to uncoordinated natural resource management and development. Laos has been facing with severe social and environmental effects due to natural resource utilization and climate change. These are obstacles for green economy development of Laos. While our use of energy is the main cause of climate change, the effects can be felt through water. Integrated water resource management is a process that promotes good water governance. The concept of integrated water resource management also include participation and inclusiveness to ensure that changes in water use in one area will not have negative impacts on water user downstreams. In making decisions, participatory approach can give benefits such as leads to more successful projects in terms of scale, design, operation, and maintenance. Ensure that environmental resources are protected and the cultural values and human rights are respected. Coordinate interests and increase transparency and accountability in decision making. Lao government has indicated they need support in applying the integrated water resource management. So TAF designed the CRBM project in collaboration with the Department of Water Resource and at the Ministry of Natural Resource and Environment to support their needs. This is a 2-year project, 2021 to 2023, funded by the McConnell Foundation. The CRBM project is operating through 3 components. The first component is capacity building for government of Laos to help them to identify the data as part of transparent and equitable river basin planning and management approach. The second component is increasing public participation and awareness raising, as well as consultation in the development of local water resource management and planning. The third component is support for the design and implementation of village-level water resource projects, such as wetland improvements, turning on organic agriculture, improved waste management, and green infrastructure projects to build community resilience against climatic hazards and climate change. Like other developing countries, Laos has challenged to expand water management infrastructure to meet energy and food demand. This challenge is often addressed by conventional concrete infrastructure, such as dikes, dams, irrigation channel. Even though these engineered solutions improve quality of life for many people, their benefits have not been evenly distributed. Green infrastructure is innovative aspect of our CRBM project's activities. TAF will support local water managers, especially relevant line ministry staff, to learn about this bioengineering concepts and techniques. for river erosion control. The objective is to show that nature-based solution can be applied to prevent serious erosion, and it can increase the resilience of local communities. It is also a low-cost option to increase resilience of infrastructure. Sometimes it can take years after project closure to see impacts, and our CRBM project is only halfway through the implementation. Nonetheless, there are some impacts we are noticing. Training of trainers approach that we apply in capacity building for Lao government staff is working well. Provincial government can transfer their knowledge to district and village officials. This works because the government officials are in the best position to know about roles and responsibilities of their colleagues within the government structure. They have shown leadership skills in motivating district and local level government officials during training activities. The government officials can apply what they have learned. They have been trained. For instance, provincial officials have been leading water quality monitoring data collection with district and village level authorities, as well as developing community hazard maps that will be used to improve their disaster risk management plan. We have brought participatory and equitable approaches in natural resource management and benefits sharing from previous phase called Community Water Resource Management Project. We also understand more about balancing the needs of ecosystems with economic development. For instance, a village in Sebangfai district allow a local road developer to collect fish in its wetland every few years as payment for building a local road. Villagers have benefits from road, but wetland lack fish, and it took a few years to have fish migration from adjacent Sebangfai River. Through wetland improvement as part of our project, fish population increased sufficiently so that the wetland is not drained completely to get enough fish to sell to local developers. This approach is decided through participatory wetland management framework with inputs from all villagers rather than just the village authority. The example we saw in our project was the case, the village in Sebangfai, where the idea of expanding the wetland was being promoted by village authorities and not by all the villagers, especially those who would have lost some of their agricultural land. We need to continue to ensure that when a project is supporting village level development activities, along with the benefits they can bring, these activities do not get taken by elite capture. To avoid this happening, TAF project team members need to ensure from the beginning that as many people as possible are consulted when designing the development. Oops. TAF environment team has also been discussing internally a possible pooling system in which votes can be solicited in a transparent and confidential manner. How this can function within the existing political system at the village level in Laos still needs some creative brainstorming. All in all, we are learning and trying to build climate resilience development, reducing climate change vulnerability with consideration of equity and climate justice. That's all for my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Excellent. Thank you, Kunso, and thank you to all of our presenters. That was really excellent. Just a moment. Let me turn on. Sorry, lost my my button there. Okay. Anyway, thank you, Pradeep, Fira, and So. These were three very excellent presentations documenting your good work. We've seen innovative climate resilience information management systems in Nepal. We've seen forest management and fiscal policy reform in Indonesia. We've had the opportunity to see cooperative river basin resource management in Laos. And despite the topical and geographical differences of these three programs, we also saw many similarities. I hope you saw them. Stakeholder ownership of the process, cooperative cooperation between government and civil society actors, capacity building, and many other similarities, all of which were hallmarks of good governance. Well done. We will now turn the floor over to our audience to post questions in the chat box below. And while we are waiting for people to gather their thoughts, perhaps I can jump in with a question of my own, if I may. Let me start with a question for you, Pradeep. It's in fact a two-part question. The Integrated Disaster Information Management System is really a great initiative. It's allowing data sharing across government and non-government agencies. You mentioned in your presentation that you are pooling all credible data, digital and spatial, from different sources. How do you determine whether some of this data is relevant and credible? What is the criteria you're using to ensure the credibility? And the other part of my question is, you mentioned that this is a youth-driven initiative. I was wondering if you could elaborate a bit more on this, speak more broadly, how the government works with a non-government organization to make this happen. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Kim. Such a wonderful question to actually summarize and to share the other aspect of the project itself. So as the name itself, disaster information management system. So this house all sort of data together. So some of the criteria to actually host these kind of data sets is that we know that, like in past, these data sets were not scientific. They were coming from different structures, templates. So it was very difficult to actually house every sort of data sets. So what we made the criteria is to have a real-time data sets. For example, the Department of Hydrology and Meteorology house all sort of data sets that are from river and rain information. Similarly, the information that are related to seismology, actually that comes from seismology department. So similarly, other data sets also comes from different government institutions. So the first priority is given to the government led initiatives, since this is a government portal itself. So if there are other, data sets, for example, we have also linked data sets from EC mode, which actually produces data sets, and they have been like producing data sets for a long time. So the criteria is it should not be a short-term basis project. It should be a long-term project. So that should contribute to this continuous flow of information to this integrated management system, because BIPAT portal or disaster information management system of Nepal, it does not produce data of its own. It actually collaborates with different ministries and departments, and that's how they brings these data sets. So regarding the data sets like the flood hazard data sets or exposure data sets or climate change related data sets, so they are done with the research process. So we have different departments, the government entities, which actually validates these informations, and they do the ground validations, they do other sort of validation. And once they approve these data sets, then only these data sets gets uploaded to the government portal. And regarding this provincial government intervention also, it goes to the same level. So once they approve these data sets, then only it goes to the main server and are available with the public access. So regarding how the young people are actually working on this process is in late 2018, early 2019, we signed memorandum of understanding with government of Nepal regarding leveraging our technical capacity to the development of this system. So the government criteria for the selection was they wanted to have this system developed by the internal quality, the capacity of Nepali people or Nepali institutions, because in past they had lots of problems in terms of hosting some softwares that were developed by some projects or some small big initiatives. So it was difficult because there was a sort of problem in terms of having a technical capacity of its own. So the government initiated these approaches, and they collaborated with us and other stakeholders as well. But then the team that we had formed for the technical development of this is comprising the youth of similar to my age or below than that. So the another aspect in terms of capacity setting that other panelists also mentioned about is we have this, as I mentioned earlier, we have this disaster risk reduction fellowship program and climate change climate fellowship program. So through which what we do is like we equipped young volunteers or young graduates, especially coming from geometric background or environment science background or forestry background, and we train them with the GIS capacities and also how to develop, how to host these capacities. And we station them at the municipalities or the local levels. And for 5 months or 6 months, they work closely with the local governments to digitize all the data sets, to actually collect new data sets like critical infrastructure, hospital data sets, and all the informations that you have seen on the picture. If these household level data sets done digitally by the local government, they can also like insert those data sets or upload those data sets to the system. And they also developed the standard operating procedure so that the local government can independently host this system and contribute to this system and use this data sets for decision making. So this is the process where we have gone so far. Rather than this, or on top of this, we also provide workshops as well as sensitization programs through which they can also use this. So far, we have reached out to 40 municipal authorities with the Disaster Risk Reduction Fellowship Program that was supported by the USAID and other partners. And now with the support of European Union and with the government, we are going to 40 new municipalities in three different provinces in Nepal. So this is the process so far. Team.
Thank you so much, Pradeep. We have two new questions. One is, let me first ask the three panelists if you are any of the panelists are familiar with the concept of the One Health approach to advancing climate resilience, because if you're not familiar with that concept, it might be a difficult question to ask. Can I ask that of the question? So you're familiar with One Health, right?
Actually, I have just read about this article today. Okay. So honestly, not yet familiar with this concept. Just learn the new concept for me.
The question is, do the panelists see a role for the One Health approach to advancing climate resilience? I realize it is a relatively new concept, and I think I would not be able to summarize it, but maybe John, the speaker, might be able to speak to that a little bit more. Oh, well, let's hold that question for now and come back to it in a minute once we have a little bit more context. There is another question that raises the question. Climate resilience is very important to the climate change landscape. The question is to do with a climate resilient agriculture and adaptation. The question is, and so this is probably a good question for you as well, how can we reach our baseline farmers for the adaptation of new methods and techniques in a changing situation? So how do we reach the baseline farmers with these new technologies?
From our experience, we learn by doing. We kind of do action research, and before we provide new methods or innovation to the farmers, we did survey. For example, in one of our activities on organic agriculture, we try to promote organic agriculture or clean agriculture in our project areas, and we did survey first. We try to identify what's the problems of local farmers, and we found that they have problem with weed and also some apple snails, and then we try to find solutions to introduce to farmers, and then they can try this, and it's like learning and doing at the same time. If it works, then it's successful for them. So it's quite challenge for the situation of climate change, and everything change all the time, and we have different diseases, different problems for agricultural production. Yeah.
Very good. So thank you. I just realized we are already almost down to the end of the session. So I don't want Fira to feel left out. So I'm going to ask you, Fira, a quick question, and just to keep you keep you fresh, keep you responsive. Your presentation mentioned that the national ecological fiscal transfers were adopted after 2 years of advocacy. And that is a very significant achievement. And I was curious what you thought were the key contributors to the success of that advocacy effort.
All right. Thank you, Kim, for the questions. I think this is a really important and then also the best practice that we have working for past 2 years. So as you know, the ecological fiscal transfer, and we really working the concept and implementation of the ecological fiscal transfer from very age of the subnational government. So as you can see from my previous presentations, that the first thing that we're working in the level of the local context or subnational government context. And then after that, after some of the regions already implement the ecological fiscal transfer concept as the scheme, and we are moving forward to the national level. So that makes trust that government see that this is very important, and another province and sub-government already implement, and then we pulling out the concept to the national, so the national can also give incentive to subnational governments who already implementing this scheme. So we really working from the age, and also we bring out in the national level. And also, Kim, I want to add a little bit. I saw in the chat that there is a question from the David Frat. He said that I'm happy to see the focus of ecological fiscal transfer in your success in supporting its adaptation. And he asking about if there is an example yet about funds flow to local stakeholder and specific local project and priorities being funded by the AFT mechanism. So may I answer directly, Kim?
Yes, please.
Yeah,
And
all right.
also let me just, before you do, let me jump in and say, Um, um, this event is going for 90 minutes. I'm sorry. I know they
All
just
right.
legalized marijuana in Thailand. I haven't been smoking. It's just I don't know. I got the time wrong. Please, we have another 30 minutes.
Okay, okay, thank you so much. So thank you for the question, David Frat. So the ecological fiscal transfer scam is giving funded to government from government to government. So if the government who receive the funded and they want to fund the local project or another priority programs, it can be. So as one of the sample, one of our college who working in the Kalimantan province, the province who funded who received the ecological fiscal transfer scheme from the national giving fund to the local projects to in the Kaltara province. They funded for the solar cell and also develop some modules about fiscal transfer and also develop the waste management. So that's one of the examples that we have been working so far. Thank you for the questions.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. John has given us a bit more context on the One Health reference. Let me read his question for the three panelists, and I'll invite any of the panelists to jump in if you feel comfortable to answer. The question is, One Health is an integrated approach linking human health, animal health, and environmental health, uniting the health, agriculture, and environment sectors to provide a unified approach to addressing issues that they share in common, they share in common, including emerging infectious and zoonotic diseases. Since climate change is a driver of health impacts, it seems logical to engage One Health in climate change, but so far incorporation of climate change is not well developed. That's a good question. It's an important question. Most people don't think of COVID and pandemics as being, in fact, a climatic issue, but indeed they are. So this takes us into a new direction. And do any of the three panelists feel comfortable to take this one on?
Well, Kim, probably I'm not the right person to actually address this question, but what I can share about one of the approaches we have taken during COVID-19 was, and then also the other epidemics, is that epidemics is also considered as one of the hazards. So this is recognized by the UNDR. And COVID-19 is also taken as one of the health hazard or epidemics, pandemics, lastly. So it was a time of monsoon 2 years back, and there was this COVID, cases increasing rapidly in the southern plains where the flood impact was quite high. So the government requested us to prepare a flood and COVID risks map and landslide and COVID risks map. So with the help of all these data sets together, it was easy for us to actually develop those kind of intervention. So I think considering the health data sets for climate or disaster risk reduction is important, and bringing all these data sets together. And in terms of integrating approach, so you get all these data together and overlaying each other's, we can see how risk is overlaying. And on top of this, if we can have the geotag data sets of any health hazard or any disaster events or any climate change impacts, if we can document geotag evidences of all those, probably that actually helps in decision making. So that is also lacking in many part of the world. So that's how it is difficult to actually figure out the exact location, exact place. When we talk about snow melting, so probably it'll be very difficult for somebody living in other part of the country to actually understand, what kind of geography they actually belongs. Or the land that place has. So having a geotag and map-based system can actually help people understand the location, and that location actually matters a lot in terms of decision making. So yeah.
Well, Pradeep, the gentleman who asked that question, John,
Right.
he did weigh in and said that your unified data system is exactly what is needed for sectoral integration that we need for both climate and health. So, he said
Right.
that he goes on to ask, what can you say? Can you say the name of your data integration tool again? What is the name of your tool? It's BDAP.
Yeah, it's peopleportal.gov.np. It's hosted in the government server.
Okay,
So
excellent.
take a look of that. The climate change data sets you can figure out, you can find in RIXinfo. Inside RIXinfo, there is climate change data sets. So precipitation and temperature data sets you can find. So the two slides I present about IBF and the another one visualizing RIX, these are the new modules developed within the system. So these 6 modules that I defined previously, those were not actually included on this. These are the new modules which are in integration process, and also they are in reviewing process as well. So yeah, I totally agree. This has to be like integrated. The system has to be integrated. So sometimes like the climate change department is doing some work independently, the disaster department is doing something independently, agriculture is doing something on their own, hydrology meteorology department is doing something on this one. So that was the actually approach, to bring all these data sets together and to see how we can have informed decision making in different sectors. And once you have this integrated approach, integrated system, that actually works for the country, not for not for one department or one ministry or one agency. So that will be useful for everybody, and everybody can contribute all sort of data together. So that was a core approach to actually develop this system itself. So, but I think I was unaware of this new terminology. So One Health or something like that, but that's why I was a little worried about to go directly into this question. But we are in process of integrating COVID-19 data sets into the system. There was some data validations which is going on, and also the localization of those data sets till ward level, which actually is required for this system. But you can still find out the epidemics, the major epidemics in the country within the portal itself. Yeah,
Very good.
Kim.
Thank you. I don't see additional questions yet. Maybe we have a shy group of people. While we are waiting, though, perhaps I could ask you another question, if I may.
Yes,
So,
please.
how are nature-based solutions currently received in Laos? And in your opinion, what are some of the opportunities or barriers to further development of nature-based solutions in Laos?
Yes, thank you for the question, Kim. In Laos, the nature-based solution is relatively new concept that not many developers see and apply in their projects because they still lack knowledge about this subject. We need to have more examples of successful green infrastructure projects in Laos. There are a few INGOs and UN agencies exploring this area, but still very few examples of completed projects. And TAF have introduced the nature-based solution to the Lao government when we proposed the CRBM project in early 2019. And they were interested to do this activity. And we are now about to implement green infrastructure in Mahasai district, Khamon province. And right now we are on the process of study. Once we accomplish creating a pilot area, it will give a hope for the future development by recognizing that nature provides some protections against climatic hazards. However, the question is if we can learn to protect these natural services, and this activity of our project have a major step forward. Yeah.
Good. Thank you. So, well, I don't see any new questions yet. So while we are still waiting, Let me just throw out one more question. Then again, another one for you, I guess. So, if you don't mind, put you on the hot seat. In your presentation, so you emphasize the importance of participatory approach. So how do you ensure broad representative participation in your project work? Do you have any best practices or tips, incentives that you could share with the group?
Yeah, conducting effective and meaningful public participation is always challenging. Based on our experience, I can give some tips. First, I think make participation platform convenient and simple. We need to consider the time of participants. Almost all people in rural area are farmers. We need to consider time that they are available, such as avoiding having a public meeting in planting time or harvesting time. If it's necessary to have public meetings in farming time, we organize in the nighttime when people finish from their work in daytime. We try to make the atmosphere not too formal and try to be friendly. And second, I think we should provide incentives to motivate people to participate by focusing on the problems that are relevant to their livelihood. For instance, we created a facilitating conversation tool to encourage people to speak their opinions. We have set up some question asking about the main issues related to water resource management in the village, what they think are the causes and solutions for the issues. And we created tables to fill information from their conversation, and then they present to the meeting. And I think also provide access to essential information like show the video, use maps and pictures, and design content of communication in the style that are familiar to them or understandable for them. And last tip, I think use network to enhance connections. And we have set up an activity called Healthy River Network, where we will help to bring people from up and downstream to exchange information related to water issues and find solution together. We hope that this platform will help them to collaborate events in the future by themselves. That I would share about our tips for public participation.
Okay, thank you very much. There's one more question by, but I'm not sure I'm understanding it. It says climate change is causing either flooding or drought. How can we address climate caused damages to biological resources? Well, I guess biological resources includes a pretty broad range of things. There's going to be the all bioecology, all bio services, including farming, fishing, aquaculture, but it also includes ecosystem services. How can we address climate change cause damages to these biological resources? Well, that's the question. Let me throw that out there. Is that it might be a question. Well, I can open it up to any of the three speakers. Would anybody like to take a crack at that one?
Well, Kim, I think I'm not really familiar with the biological resource, but maybe I can answer through the one of the program that we work through social forestry. So as you know that the social forestry program is giving access to the community to manage to manage the land, and then we also facilitate the legal permit to community so they can access and manage the land and the forest by the local wisdom and themselves. So I think that one of this is talking about the how the food security, and then how can the social forestry also giving impact through the management land and forest. So I thought that I'm not really expert, but I think that this is like one of the insight that we have to working on further, and also by protecting the agenda of the social forestry, that I can say that we can provide the food security by ourselves, because I know that we working with the community and the local community who already know about how to management the land by themselves and also by the local wisdom, that I think that this is can be useful to address the climate change through the social forestry program. So that's from me, Kim. Thank you.
While I have you, Fira, there's one of the member of the audience who is doing work in Indonesia, and he has asked if he could get your contact information so that he can be in touch with you directly. I think he'd like to learn more about the work you're doing in Central Sulawesi.
Yeah.
So I
Okay.
assume it's okay. We can post your contact information, your email address here for him.
Sure. I already sent you my email privately to Gauri Mirpuri. Hey,
Oh, good.
thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you very much for reaching me out. So I already sent to you by my email privately.
Okay, excellent. I think we don't have any more questions, but let me, in lieu of more questions, let me turn it back to our three panelists to ask if any of you would like to share any final reflections on today's session. Anything else that you wanted to say that you didn't have time to say you'd like to cover right now? Let me begin with Fira, since you're on the screen right now.
All right. Okay. So thank you very much. I think that I'm really also learning so much from the another panelists, and I know that how we building climate resilience in any sectors that also giving impact, so we can work hand in hand together. And one of the great things that we working, that how we mainstreaming the genders in any aspect of our work. Like so also said that, and also my other colleagues Pradeep also talk about the data. And I think that we continuously working our program in any sector, from the advocacy level, governments, agriculture, and data. I think that we can building the resilience together. That's for me, Kim. Thank you.
Fira, thank you so much. Pradeep, over to you, sir.
Okay, I'd like to go to this question from Afzal. I think to the extent I understood that question, so I think the climate change is leading a major threat to a lot of things. So last time we had a very big flash flood that Kim was also mentioning. So nobody knows, like I mean, how that kind of like mega debris was coming from the upper Himalayas. So that actually washed away a huge settlement in the river basin, and then a huge economic loss as well. So I think what we can do to reduce this kind of risks is having a scientific study of all these things, and having a monitoring system in place, and having an early warning system in place. So to give the context of countries like Nepal, so where there is like magnitude of different disasters taking place every year. So I think we need to look into the household level perspective, like identifying the most vulnerable household, most exposed household, or most hazardous places. So we have to identify or specify all these kind of places. If that is a flood prone area or drought prone area or turning into a drought prone area, so there has to be a monitoring system. So there are monitoring system, global monitoring system in place, so that can be localized, and you can align your development work. Your government can actually work on using those data sets to actually reduce risks. So you can take example from FIRA. Probably you can do the plantations in those areas, or like taking examples from Laos, like going through this nature-based solution. So that can actually leads towards resilient communities. But I think to be able to do all these things, we need to have a data. We have to have a scientific data. We have to monitor all our geographical basins. If the settlement is there, we have to be very careful. If the settlement are in very risky areas, we have to be more careful, because the life of people is a huge thing. So I think we need to have those kind of system. The system that I presented is a very, very small step to actually go through all these things. Probably having the country level, like individual household level data sets, identifying those most vulnerable communities, most vulnerable households, and actually working to mitigate risks with those households can only solve these issues. So I think all these flood events or droughts events or other climatic conditions, so that is a global global problem as well. So that has to come from regional strengthening, regional network, and these kind of conversations. But at the household level or at the country level, the country has to have a technical capacity and these kind of other nature-based solutions or other programs that should actually back all these kind of work. This is what from my perspective, Kim. Thank you.
Thank you, Pradeep. Thanks so much. So over to you. Any final comments, reflections, comments that you'd like to cover that you didn't cover in your presentation?
I think nowadays the impacts of climate change is not trivial, and we have limited time to stop it. And as you know, that we need to stop the temperature to increase more than 1.5 degrees based on the urgent that we need to solve the climate problem. And I think nature need have, in our development, we need to consider about preserving the nature. At the same time, we need to adapt, increase resilience. And I learned from our colleague from Nepal that he presented a wonderful tool about disaster risk management. And I think I hope that I can learn more from him. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So, in fact, I think we're going to invite Pradeep to all of our countries, and we can see if we can come up with a similar system for all of our countries. I think it's a really excellent program. But I think all three of you are doing really phenomenal work, and the work you are accomplishing, and you contributing to the region and to your respective countries is very, very significant. So I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to present today, to share your experiences, and to sit with us for a while to let us understand what you have been doing, and an opportunity to follow up with you with other questions we may have after this session, because I suspect people will want to continue to be in touch with you and to learn more and more about the work you are doing. With that, I'd like to thank everyone who stayed the course, who shared the evening with us, the morning your time, the evening our time here in Asia. It was a pleasure to meet you virtually, and I hope to see you all again in another webinar in the not too distant future. Thank you, and thank you again for participating.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Okay.
Thank you,
Nice
Kim.
to
Thank
you
you,
all.
and Sonia.